Evansville, Indiana. And we're excited to be here. I'm glad all of you could be here either in person or online. We had just a fantastic time at the museum last night and at the Ritz house there after, which all of us who had a chance to be involved in that really enjoyed. So I'm going to pass this over to our friend Commissioner Scott to give a little bit of introduction.
We're gonna do call to order first and then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yep.
All right. Okay. We'll do call of order first. Okay.
All right, I will begin our roll call. We'll start with our commissioners who are present in the room. We have Raina Bradley,
I am present.
Jeannie Campbell,
Present.
Dave Heist,
Present.
Greg Hull,
Present.
Daniel Martinez here, and Scott Wiley.
Present.
We'll move on to our commissioners present on Zoom. Azizi Arrington Slocum.
Present.
Is Dawn Conwell on Zoom? I do see her little icon there, but I'll come back to her. Rick James.
Here.
Jake Oakman. Jake, are you with us there? I know I saw you earlier. I will come back to Jake as well. Is Kelsey with us? Kelsey,
Present.
Great. We'll move on to our IAC staff who are present in the room with us. Jordan Adams.
Jordan Adams, Artist Services Program Manager.
Eric Ashby.
Eric Ashby, Director of Programs.
Connie Brom.
Connie Brum, Marketing Communications Director.
Britt Fechtman.
Britt Fechtman, Data and Grant Systems Manager.
Ann Johansson.
Ann Johansson, Community Services Manager.
Maya Michelson.
Maya Michelson, Executive Director.
Stephanie Fendler is with us, but she is currently helping somebody wayfind. Andre Zangsanera.
Morning, everyone. Andres Sanera, Deputy Director, Chief of Staff.
We'll move on to our IAC staff who are on Zoom. Gwendolyn Pickett.
Gwendolyn Pickett, Communications Manager.
And finally, our regional arts partners who are on Zoom. Kayla Myers.
Kayla Myers, Region 2 Arts Partner.
Sherry Wright.
Hi, Sherry Wright, Region 6 Arts Partner.
I'm going to loop back around and check one more time with Dawn Conwell and Jake Oakman.
Present.
Dawn is here. Jake, are you there? Well, if you show up, just say it. That is currently everyone.
Great. Thank you, Austin. We are going to go to Commissioner Wiley, who's going to provide an introduction of
Yes,
this.
I am. By the way, we are so glad to have you in Evansville. We are just so proud that the commission is doing its quarterly meeting here. I wanted to start real quick by introducing a special guest that we have today, and that is Rita Eikamp, who was with us last night as well. Rita's a former commissioner, former chair of the commission, and we are so glad she has been a stalwart, as with those of us who live in this part of the state know, of support of the arts in our region. So just welcome, Rita. I'm so glad to have you. And hopefully she'll be able to tell us how to do this right. I had the privilege for many years, in fact, for over a decade, to be chair of our local SBDC board, who's hosting us here today. And I'm going to introduce our executive director of our local office, who's hosting us here today. And one of the things that his predecessor and I used to always do if we had meetings in this room was if we didn't hear construction, the city wasn't going in the right direction. And so you're going to hear lots of construction during our meeting today. And I hope you enjoy. If you look out the window, what you're going to see is you're going to see a giant apartment complex and a park that are going in immediately next door to the building that we're in today, where all our economic regional development work is done. If you leave from your parking space and you go to Martin Luther King on the other end of Main Street to exit to go home, you will pass our Ford Center, which is our large arena where we host the Division II National Championship for basketball, and lots of other cool stuff. There is a wonderful Roger Stoller public sculpture that's on the side of that building that we installed with that. It's approximately 50 feet by, I think about 20 feet or so. It's a large piece. Rita and Sarah Schuler, who was with us last night, who is chair of our Public Art Commission, They were instrumental when we were doing that now some 15 or so years ago. But it's a really major art installation in our downtown. If you go the other direction out of the parking lot to go down to Riverside, to go to one of the freeways or something, and you want to pick up some food on the way home and get a really good greasy burger and fries, the Peephole is right down there. And that is not what it sounds like. It's about prohibition, not what your brain went to when you heard the name of it. You're in the middle of downtown. All of our wonderful amenities are all around you. So when you're walking back to your car, take a look around. I promise you, you will have sun by the time you leave. We are looking very forward, and I am happy to drive to Valpo because you all drove to Evansville. And I just want to give Dom an opportunity. He's currently head of our local SBDC. As we know, they're in our, what are we, our circular, our vertical. They are one of our great partners. And I will tell you, for all of the legal calls we get from artists who are looking for ways to better their career or to monetize their work in better ways, to understand their roles and responsibility, there is no greater partner that we have in all of our folks in the vertical that assists the work we do to help artists do well. I make referrals to the SBDC and their business advisors for artists all the time. And the work and the support they get from the accounting and banking and becoming bankable and knowing how to do contracts and knowing how to do basic stuff is just vital to the work we do when we're getting grants, especially to individual artists, and small arts organizations. So Dom, take it over and welcome folks to our wonderful home here.
Do you guys want me to stand at the lectern?
Just
So that here would be wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Scott. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Evansville in Southwest Indiana. We're so glad to have you here. It's a pleasure to host you today. My name is Dominic Pogge. I serve as Regional Director for the Southwest Indiana Small Business Development Center. Long-winded way of saying we get to help people with their businesses. And I lead a team of fantastic individuals that carry out that work. Just quick show of hands, who's familiar with SBDC? Okay, great. That's a bigger percentage. I'm really encouraged by that. If you're not familiar, the Indiana SBDC provides one-on-one advising and then training services to small business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs. We're able to do this for free for clients because of the support we get from federal, state, and local dollars. And most people assume that we work with Main Street type businesses, restaurants, even manufacturers and tech startups. But the reality is that we work with a lot of creative entrepreneurs as well. And what we often see is that they don't think of themselves as business owners or entrepreneurs. So we'd love to help them understand the mechanics of running a sustainable business. And that's a common conversation that we typically have. So we know that the arts are just not culturally important. They're also economically important. And creative activity brings life to downtowns. It changes neighborhoods. If you've been through, take up the Haney's Corner and
Walked all over the place.
great, awesome.
Walked from the museum to the Rhinestone class.
So I think more importantly, that touches on a huge theme that we see with a lot of employers in the area is that talent attraction and retention is a key challenge everyone is faced with. And if you have a vibrant arts and culture in your community, that really helps with the talent attraction piece. So we see it as an economic imperative just as much as it is a quality of life. So really, we just wanted to thank you for coming here today. We're happy to host you. And if there's one thing I can leave you with is that we are always open to a conversation about how we can make a tighter integration between the creative community and helping them with their businesses. So I'm part of a statewide network of Indiana SBDCs, but I represent the Southwest one. But we'd be more than happy to talk with you about how we can better promote the services of the SBDC and vice versa. So if there are collaboration opportunities, I invite you to connect with me about that. But thank you for your support and all the great work that you do. We see that every day, especially in the creative entrepreneur that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dom, and thank you, Scott. Great to have that introduction. All of you should have, yes.
I'm going to call out that Jake Oakman is here. Jake, can you say hello?
Welcome, Jake. Good to see you.
Yes. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties, but I am here.
We've had our share too, so no worries. Okay, so all of you should have received materials through email. So we'll go to item 2 on approval of the agenda and the consent agenda, which includes a number of items submitted that will be approved as we approve the agenda, and also a number of reports. If there's any commissioner who would like to have any of those items discussed, we'll move it to the end of the meeting. If not, we'll go forward and approve those.
And I get to make a fun motion. And I'm going to move that we are able to remove the executive committee meeting at the end of the agenda and the 3 items on that, because we have full quorum and we do not have to do that. So we'll be able to take care of all of our business without that. So I would move that we remove the executive committee meeting, bottom of your agenda, from the agenda in its entirety.
Thank you, Scott. A second.
Second.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Yes, sir. One moment, please. All right, in person here in the room, Raina Bradley,
Aye.
Jeannie Campbell,
Aye.
Dave Heist,
Aye.
Greg Hull,
Aye.
Daniel Martinez,
Aye.
Judith is not here, Scott Wiley,
Aye.
and on Zoom, Azizi Arlington Slocum.
Aye.
Don Conwell. I will loop back around. Rick James.
I'm sorry, you cut out.
We are removing the executive meeting from the end of the agenda. This is a vote to remove that. If you have a vote one way or the other, just say aye or nay.
Aye.
Perfect. Rick James,
Aye.
Jake Oakman,
Aye.
Kelsey Pieper.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Great. Thanks, Austin. Okay. Next is to approve the agenda and consent. We need a motion.
So moved.
A second.
I'll second Scott Wiley.
Thanks, Scott. Okay. Roll call.
I get to do this again. All right. Raina,
Aye.
Jeannie,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Daniel,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Azizi,
Aye.
Dawn,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and Kelsey. I think you're muted.
Take that
Kelsey.
as a yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, somehow I lost my mic icon, but I.
Perfect. What a fun meeting this is.
Central time will do too. It's all on here.
Slow time.
Okay, so it has been moved, and we have no items that we'll address at the end of the meeting. So we want to move on to committee reports. Andre.
Thank you. Good morning again, everyone. I will be rolling with Committee of the Future, and our first item is fiscal year 27 budget first look. Next slide, please. So to give you all a refresher of what State of Indiana budget looks like, the state budget fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. This is year number 2 of the 2026-2027 big biennium budget that was approved by the General Assembly in April of 2025. During the fall, ISC leadership will be submitting its proposal for the 2028-2029 biennial budget. And in January of 2027, Governor Brown will be submitting his recommended budget to the General Assembly for the long session that will take place next spring. Next slide. On the federal budget 101, our federal budget, we received funding from the National Endowment for the Arts. The federal budget runs on a fiscal year from October 1st to September 30th. We submit our yearly application to the National Endowment for the Arts every September with recommendations done by the National Council on the Arts this spring. We're anticipating that we'll be receiving notification of our federal fiscal year 26 award in late April, early May. Next slide. So going over into the fiscal year 2027 budget, our revenue assumption, when I see these numbers, the reminder that's abstracting to what we had in the 2024-2025 biennial cycle. So we had a 33% reduction to the last biennial cycle. That's 1.72 reduction in our overall agency appropriation. Similarly to the federal appropriation of the NEA, we had a $50,000 reduction that will go in for this federal fiscal year that's coming in. And that is because we do not have access now to the one-time addition that was given for America's 50 celebrated our nation's 76th annual. So that's what we'll see, a $50,000 reduction, should be about 4%. Next slide. In terms of the Arts Trust, as you all know, the Indiana Arts Commission receives funding through the purchase of the Indiana Arts Trust license plate. We utilize that funding for the payment of art project support with art projects. And we're anticipating that it's going to be the same amount as last year, which is $150,000. Additionally, state budget agency requires a management reserve holdback. We're gonna expect that it's still gonna be 5% as last year until we hear otherwise. So every budget scenario that you have over here, it is with a 5% management reserve holdback. Okay, any questions so far before I go into revenue? Okay, thank you. So on your screen, you can see that it's a little bit hidden over there in the side, but we can see over here that again, our expenses are gonna be slightly similar to the same thing, including also the 5% revenue. And sorry, we spoke earlier, 240, not 250 for the Arts Trust. Next slide. So things that we want to do for the expenses assumptions, we're looking for the addition of a new program manager that's going to be managing the arts project support and arts organization support for the agency to help us lead that lift. We're also going to be increasing grant funding for arts project support as we have seen a higher demand on that project and targeted. And then also more targeted opportunity for funding in our communities and in artist services. So what's next from this? This is, again, it's a first preview of everything else that's happening. We're still going to be working between now and June to get over our fiscal year 27 budget. We welcome all your feedback and process. I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to talk more. On the third page of that memo, you have the line item description of everything that we're planning to use the funding for FY27. By early May, we should be receiving our federal allocation of the NEA. That's going to help us better understand where we are financially with all our different programs and everything for staffing wise related. We'll have a allocation expenditure plan by May. Again, that's going to be pending on that 5% management reserve holdback. We had the 5%. If we go back to the traditional 2 that we have been in the past, that 3% makes a big difference of what we can use with that funding. We're going to be coming back to you all in June QEM in Indianapolis to present then that, including also the FY27 draw request for the trust fund. Fiscal year begins in July 26, and then we do not stop. We start then planning for FY25, 28, 29 biannual budget. So with that said, I want to move into discussion real quick if there's any questions with that. And then questions for discussion that we would like to do is any line items based on page 3 from your memo that you would like to have more details for us to discuss or consider adjusting pending the available resources.
Any items at all for discussion? Okay. I think we're good. Great discussion. This does not require any action.
This is not, this is a preview.
So, yes.
Just for our folks who are watching on the live stream, I'm going to call out that Commissioner Judith Sawyer has joined us here in person in the room.
Great. Thank you, Austin. Okay, Andre, you want to move?
Yeah,
Next slide.
can I move to the next one, please?
Right.
Thank you. Heading over then to calendar year 26 goals, another fun item from the Committee on the Future. As you all know, the Indiana Arts Commission is in the middle of this 2024-2028 strategic plan framework. That session and everything else help us get to where we need to do. We met in December and discussed what we did in 2025, which was a very, very big year. And then give you all from the feedback that we'll receive from you all. And on the screen, you can see the overall goals that we're going to do for 2026 that align with our 4 strategic pillars that we have from our strategic partnership. So I'm going to go with the first one, which is strengthening field capacity through subject matter partnership. That is the partnership value. We plan to do that by intentionally partnering with subject expert matters organizations and Indiana-based artists to strengthen the capacity, support the education pipeline, and reform arts as a contributor to the workforce readiness. Main Street Entrepreneurship, Job Creation, LT Aging, and St. Point Arts Ecosystem. We plan to doing that by identifying who are our subject matter partnerships, both statewide, regionally, and nationally, that align with our priorities and needs for our artists and our arts organizations. We want to also formalize more structural partnerships. This is learning series pilot programs that pairs these subject matter experts with Indiana organization and its artists. We also want to provide technical and assistant opportunities to existing grant programs, and then prioritizing partnerships that demonstrate scalable impact across our regions and disciplines. Goal number 2 is the build pillar, and this is standardized programmatic lifecycle to strengthen accountability and learning. We will do that by formalizing the documenting structure from end to end on the programmatic lifecycle that ensures consistent record management, timely closeout, and structured learning across all our agencies' grant programs. We want to do that by, again, defining all the phases of the program, including from application all the way to the work processing, from beginning to end, establishing clear expectations and timelines to grantees on their final grant reports, communication closeout, and then what are the record retention policies for those. Aligning our internal workflows that goes in with programs, communications, and operations to ensure that, again, we're all on the same page with everything that's happening. And then creating a structural reflection that captures the process and lessons that informs our future program designs. Next one is the amplifier, and is implementing cohesive arts and culture messaging informed by national research. We'll be advancing clear, consistent, and research-informed arts and culture messaging that communicates the public value of arts and creativity through clear human-centered storytelling. We want to do that by transitioning national research into an internal messaging framework that across our different programs, grants, and communications, while also aligning external basic communications reports to share language and narrative items. We also want to make sure that we're equipping both staff and commissioners and partners with consistent talking points and messaging tools. So when you're out in the field, we have these resources available for you all to share and spread the message. We also want to do integrating, again, the data and storytelling. You're going to see a little bit more about it in the dashboard to report key messages and the impact of arts in the public life. And last but not least, because we always have to got 4 now, it's creative accountable pathways for cross-sector support to the art. So that is, again, connecting with potential partners outside of the traditional art sector and defining clear, actionable ways that we can, again, support that creative ecosystem. That is engaging with non-arts partners such as business, philanthropy, health, education, community development that are interested in supporting the arts, and then facilitating introduction with partners and art stakeholders, and a lot of synergy in that area as we get ready for the Creative Agent Summit in a couple of weeks as well. So this is an overview of, again, of our calendar year 26 goals. I want to provide opportunity for any question, comment, feedback, and things that we should tweak or change based on this perspective.
Thanks, Andre. And just so everyone's aware, I mean, our committees have also reviewed this. I want to thank the team, Andre, Maya, and the rest of the IAC team for really helping us. So this is the opportunity for the commissioners to question, have thoughts, comments they want to share. And then after that, this is an action item.
That is correct, sir.
So.
I think my only comments are just to come in and I really enjoy the vision that's built into goal 1. Thank you, that would be really an amazing opportunity. You guys need recommendations for the first improvement. Happy to help you, so thank you guys. I know what the best are. And I love data, so and would be happy. I wasn't sure if some of the external communication is going to be translated into very much impacting graphics for social media that we can all share easily about, but I'd be happy to help get that out.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll be in touch. We've got some things in progress for you guys.
Wonderful.
Just a comment, I'm just so impressed with the accountability that's built to everything you do and the follow-up as well as the support. As you know, for us in the outlying areas, that's very important as we grow. So.
Great comments. Anyone online that wants to weigh in? Okay. Well, good discussion. Thanks, Andre, for teeing that up for us. We need a motion to approve the goal.
This is Jake. I'll make the motion.
And we'll take a second.
Rena will second.
Sure.
Brandon, back there. Hey, we're having some fights on. Sorry for the delay. Okay, call.
Absolutely. Makes it exciting. Raina,
Hi.
Jeannie,
Here.
Iron A on this one. Out of here.
Or I.
Dave,
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Judith,
Hi.
Scott.
Aye.
We'll move on to Zoom. Azizi,
Aye.
Dawn,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Kelsey.
Aye.
That is everyone, Mr. Chair.
Excellent, great. Thanks for all the work that went into this. There's the presentation seems relatively concise, but all work it's taken to get to that point. So we appreciate everyone's work on that. So continuing on, Andre.
Still with the same show, but from a
Yeah.
different side of the room now. So I'm gonna give you all now an update on our dashboard update. As you are familiar, so we have seen it. We have a grants financial dashboard that you can see on the screen. To give you a little bit more background on that, there has been needs for the agency for over 6 years and before that to find out how are we measuring the impact that we're doing for our grantees, not just on who are we serving, how much amount we're funding we're giving them, but also the discipline, the counties, the regions that are getting served. So about 4 years ago, set up on the journey of creating a dashboard. It was hosted with Microsoft Power BI, and it just allows us the opportunity to, again, as you can see on the screen, track the measure all the way back from fiscal year 27 or fiscal year 17, sorry, all the way until now through the different programs and functionalities that we had available. We transitioned from that model from Power BI into Salesforce Tableau, which is a little bit more streamlined process, except not on the management side of things. We're dealing with that and working with them. But I wanted to present to you a preview of what's going to come in and what's going to be online. So I'm going to do a live demo here at the screen.
Andre, could I,
Go ahead.
mind while you pull that up, I'll do a little bit of table setting on this. For years and years, we had been seeking a way to make public, easily viewable, searchable, all the things, the investments that we make. And this dashboard that Andre's about to walk you through is currently available on our website at in.gov/arts or arts.in. And we will send you a link, or remind you of a link of how to access this. This is a great tool for you as commissioners to understand where our dollars go, but it's also meant a tool for the public to know, including decision makers, what programs we offer, where funding goes, which regions. It goes all the way down. It's very granular. It's not I'll walk you through in a minute. We're hoping to have, as Andre demonstrates this, your input as to what else a public dashboard like this might provide that would be useful to you to both understand the work that we do in a dynamic way, as it changes when new data is added, but then you can also use to communicate to others the work that we do. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass it back to Andre to take you through the features. It's been a minute since you've seen it. We rolled it out, as Andre said. It's his first big lift at the agency, knocked it out of the park. We've been on our wish list for decades to get this, and so huge shout out to him for all the work. But Andre, if you would take folks through it, and then maybe we can have a conversation about what else you might like to see, understanding that there's only a certain amount of data we can provide, but some sense from you as to how else it can.
Absolutely. So I'm going to roll up first because we are here in Region 10. I'm going to select ISC Region 10. And it's able to see, again, this line of funding that we have done for this region. The big caveat with that I also mentioned with the committee on the future, this big spike that you see here in fiscal year 21 is because of the $10 million infusion that we had for CARES and ARPA funding during the COVID-19. But I'm able to, again, select and see through the different fiscal years. So I can see right now where we are in terms of fiscal year 26 and 25. If we were to click that in to the different funding that we have done, and it's lovely, again, to see based on the work of communities and the rest of the team here to have all 92 counties light up, which has been a great deal for us to have all 92 counties funded in a fiscal year. I'm able to see, for example, if I want to go and select by program, I then comment to the meeting. Let's see, I want to be able to see arts project support. I'm able to click there and apply. And see again, a more detailed orientation of what that looks like. Let's say that we're also wanting to talk to a legislature, right? Because we have that opportunity to do it. So I'm going to click here to clear it out and hit here for congressional district. And be able to see, okay, how much, speaking with Congressman Messmer, how much we've been spending here in the region for that. Or I can also go more to the granular level, to the Senate district here in this area, and being able to talk to Senator Tomes about providing what funding we have provided here in the area, as well also as the House district, and being able to provide that information here with Representative McNamara or Representative Hostler. Also, additional to that, we have the opportunity to see the grantee specifically, what we've been able to do. So if I've been able to wanted to go again and have that conversation with Representative Messmer on Region 8, I'm able to pull out a list here by fiscal year and tell you the number of grants that we've been able to provide in this entire congressional district. So this is more of the areas of things that we want to do. Would like to include more of the data that we are receiving from final reports. So that's something that we're exploring, something in the metrics of the number of individuals served, like constituents served based on the specific.
Can you bring me that other role?
Pardon me, Commissioner Conwell? Okay, and then being able to provide that information to see where the impact of our program is, not just on the dollar side, but also on the impact by the constituent side and the areas of service, because we have a lot of arts organizations that are multi-county service, and we quite don't capture that to be able to understand that and see where the impact of these organizations are going in outside of their boundaries. So this is a quick snapshot of it, being able to provide that information. Other things that we would like to include also is being able to look by county, be able to look, or we do already by county, sorry, be able to look out by city, zip code, being able to look by artist discipline or institution discipline as well. So if I'm able to see all the museums in my county, I'm able to pull that list and see a comparison of who else is receiving, what other arts organizations and other museums in my county are receiving funding and to what level. So that is a snapshot. I'm going to open up for questions.
Questions for Andre. Let's see if we can stop it here. Hey, why all of you are thinking about questions? What is our plan to get the word out? Not just but anyone and everyone that's resources available.
That's a tough one, but be part of our annual report, right?
Absolutely. So it'll be linked in, upcoming annual reports. We link to it as see the full list of grantees in your area when we make grant announcements. But we are just, I think, any day going to go live on this iteration. This model is not quite live, and so we're waiting until the most recent model is updated, and then we'll be able to do another push. But if the previous edition that Andre had been using had been linked in previous grant announcements, but also on our website for the last couple of years. But I think as we roll out this new model with new additions, there will be a lot more opportunities to plug it, connect legislators with it, and to make sure that we're referencing this as the central hub of all of our grant recipients, and not using different lists or different PDFs as we kind of have in the past, depending on the program. It'll always link back to this version.
Good, thank you very much. Questions, comments?
Is this the first year that all 92 counties?
Last fiscal year 25, that all 92 counties were funded in a single fiscal year. And that's a lot, and also measured by leadership with the work of every county funded. So we were very intentional. There's a lot of travel, a lot of places that we went and knocked on a lot of people's doors to say, hey, we're here. We want to connect with you and want to show that you know that there's opportunities available for you. And here's a great grant opportunity for you to apply, be part of it, get the mentoring and coaching that you need to, and then see those individuals filter through our arts project support.
And I would imagine that using the I don't know if you'd call it cross-discipline, but entering into the health aspects for grants and education has probably helped that happen.
So it's a lot, and a lot of non-traditional partners that we have had in the past, again, the individual and the community role and been able to connect with a lot of non-traditional arts organizations, right? We're talking about 4-H's, we're talking about community organizations that are able to still provide, might not be your traditional arts experience, but they do have some arts component that they could create for the community, and that's been helpful for those smaller and rural counties.
I have a comment and then I think it's gonna lead to questions. So
Bring it on.
I think it is. I think that the comment is, I think this is an extraordinary effort and tool. I find it to be mind-blowing that you can get the granular information that you're talking about and the big picture in terms of quantitative data. As a trained designer, as a practicing artist, I also really value the experiential and qualitative aspects of what the arts brings to communities. And is there a way to link this tremendous new resource of quantitative data to like, well, what happened in Bartholomew County or what happened in Marion County? Where did the money go? What did it look like? And I know that this is a big, what would that resource be and what would it look like? But because to me, that's where I could start to be like, see, these dollars went there and here's what it did, or here's what happened, here's what manifested, here's what it might look like. And I know that I might skew, Raina made a comment, I love data, and I do too, but I also love just the art. I like to see like the tangible, tactile stuff that's kind of happening in the communities.
So,
And I wonder, does that resource exist and I'm just naive to it, or is there a way to kind of link this?
so that's something we're working towards, and it's no small measure with Eric and his team of being able to standardize our final reports. That's been very important because before time, every program manager can dictate what questions get asked, what information gets asked, what data resources are we measuring. By having a standardized question, standardized process, we're asking the same information regardless of what program it is. It allows us to better measure and quantify the impact of the different programs across our different sectors. So that's going to be very key and something that, again, this is a dream, but I still have more dreams of things that I want to do. But being able to pull up a map that you can pinpoint to the address of the location of where the organization is, and you can see, yes, I have Marion County, but it's not just Marion County. There's a bunch of different places throughout the county in Indianapolis that are happening, and you can see to the neighborhood level where these organizations are and who are they serving. So that's what I'm trying to do. And again, having more of the access with the number of people that we serve, because that's something the big miss that we're not doing right now. And there's also quantitative dollars amount too that I would like to explore to see, okay, for every dollar that we receive from the ISC, how much is that generating economic output for the rest of the community?
Are we using AI at all?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Is there a question?
Yeah.
To explain why, the state has been very supportive, but also very cautious because of the personal information that we manage. And so we are in process of working with the Indiana Office of Technology on what that rollout will look like for each individual agency. And so it is a work in progress, but we're taking a slower approach just because we want to be as respectful and cautious with folks' data as we can. And so there are options coming, but we're just making sure our policies are in place before we implement that as an agency.
And I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to. AI is a real hot topic in the art space as well as in the grants making space. So we'll be coming to you at some point for a fuller discussion about AI and kind of what it's doing to work that we do as a state agency and the arts overall. So sorry to leave it. But that
I felt.
kind of rushing. Do you feel it? Yeah. You feel it?
But I'm good.
Back to Daniel's question about qualitative. So what we just begun to think about in the agency is how through a data tool, how we can capture some of those stories and allow some of those stories to be shared on this tool or some iteration of this tool, that we can, here's some of those, here's what happened in Bartholomew County as a result of funding. And that's kind of the next iteration of kind of what we're thinking about. I mean, the communications team is still working on the messaging and so forth, but we're also thinking and talking a lot internally about storytelling overall So I think that you're gonna see more of that come, but I appreciate and being reminded that this tool shows obviously kind of one facet of the work, right? And so thinking about how we can incorporate that, and probably we have to beta things and sort of figure out what works, and it probably won't work. Sometimes our grantees don't tell their own stories as well as we need them to as a result of the funding. So it's kind of how we can get that across, but I think that's really important. I mean, we'd love to be able to show images, you know, actual pictures from projects and things like that. So again, we're definitely gonna have to maybe test some of that before.
And I wanted to also add, we're spearheading this nationwide.
Yeah.
Right? When you see other state or agencies, this is not a tool that's available for other of our peers right now. So us being at this space and innovating in this space and providing that opportunity and providing coaching also to the other agencies across the nation on how they're able to produce this, because it's takes some planning process, but once you have the planning process in place, it's a very straightforward process of feeding in the data and maintaining the data.
We're the only state agency in Indiana. We're not just one of the few state arts agencies. There isn't another state agency. This. So. It's huge gratitude is great for us work in this area.
That's very impressive. Other questions, comments?
So Andre's available to bring you once. Yes, Andre's very good at coaching people with not a lot of tech experience. Yours truly, and how to use tools like this. So he's available for a one-on-one walkthrough of how the system, how this tool works, how you could use it, and so just contact him. We'll be happy to walk you through it. And he's very patient.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Okay, we want to.
Don't worry, that was just a belt and suspenders. There was another recording. So.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, take it for that next time.
Okay, so we're going to move to programs, grants, and services. Eric.
Good morning, everyone. Andre, are you driving?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna stand back here so I'm in the view of the camera for our online friends. So we're gonna talk a little bit about arts project support applications. We just had a deadline that passed on March 5th for our arts project support program. This is cycle 1, episode 1 of 2 this season. We'll have another one opening in July. So this is one of our larger core programs. And the purpose of the Arts Project Support Program is to provide broad access to the arts across the state. So these are $4,000 project grants that are offered, and the eligibility is pretty broad, and 501c3s, C6 Main Street organizations, tourism organizations, schools. So a lot of different types of applicants, and I'd say a majority of the Arts Project Support applicants are not arts organizations. A lot of libraries, service organizations, municipalities. So really great to see a lot of cross-sector work going on. So in this cycle, we saw 211 applicants for the FY27 spring APS, just the first cycle, which is a decrease from our last spring cycle when we offered this last time. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some theories as to why that might be the case here in a minute. We had 63 counties apply, which is about 70% of Indiana counties, is a 7-county decrease from FY26 spring cycle. Interestingly, on the county side, we had 8 counties that applied in this cycle that didn't apply in spring last year. So we had some new counties, and then we lost some counties as well in this. So that's not abnormal as grant applications. So there are so many factors that can roll into whether a community decides to apply or not. But just to note, it's kind of ebbs and flows. So we've built some relationships and had some contacts with new organizations and new counties of the cycle that we didn't have last time. The breakdown between metro and rural counties is very similar to what we saw last year, and around 48% of applicants are from metro counties, which very closely aligned with what we saw last year at this time, which is 47%. And then similarly for rural counties, a little over half of the applicant counties are from rural counties, which is exactly what we saw last year. So proportionally, a very similar breakdown between rural and metro in this cycle. So on the next slide, this shows you the map. It's a little small to see, but this is by county and application volume. So the dark square in the very middle of the state is Marion County, where Indianapolis is. And that county had 30 applications, which was the county with the most, which is typical as usually what we see from Marion County. And then of course, as you would also expect, in Vanderburgh and Porter and Allen, we've got Fort Wayne and Evansville, and up close to Gary and Munster, some hot spots of applications as well as in Bloomington. So this is a very standard arts project support applicant map from what we see in most years. On the next slide here, I wanted to dig in a little bit on some hypotheses as to some of the decrease in the application for this cycle. One of the big things that I think is different this time of year than it was last year is the volume of offerings we had between the end of calendar year 25 and the beginning of calendar year 26. In that sort of 5-month period, we had Creative Convergence open. We were working on Every County Funded. We had America 250 open. The Ready Arts and Culture Opportunity opens as well. So there was a lot happening, and there were a lot of grant opportunities out there, and people have so many staff and so many grant writers, so much time to put together proposals and projects. So when we've got that many opportunities clustered into a short period of time, the application numbers tend to go down. So I think that is one piece that impacted this cycle. This is also the first time we're offering the spring cycle on the heels of a fall cycle. So last year in FY26, we did the same setup. And so there's a group of over 100 organizations that just apply in the fall that are in the middle of their projects that probably won't apply for this. I think they're still working on the project, even though they were eligible to. They're still in the middle of working on what they've already been funded to do on our previous cycle. So there's that awareness of the second cycle piece too. So last year was our first time we offered this program twice. So this is our second time doing it. So the field probably knows a little bit more that, hey, I could apply in the summer. This time period is not as convenient for me to apply in the new year. And so I'd like to do it in the summer because that looks better for my schedule, especially for schools. Summer is an easier time to write a proposal for something that's going to happen on the calendar year than right after the holidays as the semester or as the kiddos are coming back. So again, that knowing about the second cycle, and that's good. I mean, that's part of why we are doing 2 cycles. We want people to have access to this on a timeline that works for them. And then lastly, I think naturally this program has become much more competitive. The demand for this program has gone up, and I'll show you that here in a second. But when demand goes up and you get a no repeatedly, you're less likely to come back and apply, which is a reality that we do need to have a conversation about eventually, because if we talk about broad access and then fund 30% of the applicants, that doesn't always square. So we have to have those conversations eventually, and we're working toward kind of crafting some information and some discussion questions around how we might approach some of that forward. But I think that is definitely at play here as well in the application. So just a couple thoughts there. On the next slide, you can see here, this is the application numbers up through FY26. And I want to shout out Britt's work here. She pulled all of this data and got this already. So thank you to her for all her work on this. As you can see here, so this does not include the cycle I was just talking about. This includes all the applicants through what we had last year. And so in FY23 and in FY24, you can see it's hovering around about testing how long vision here, 240. Yeah. I gotta get more binocular. And then ever since FY24, we've kind of had a pretty steady about 30% increase year over year. So we jumped up over 300, and then for the first time I think ever last fiscal year in FY26, we're in FY26 with last cycle of ADS, we went up over 400 applications, which is enormous, and is almost a 50% increase from where we were coming out of COVID. And so it's great to see the increase in demand for this program, really exciting, and it's continuing to rise. So on the next slide, this shows a little bit, this breaks out, thank you. This breaks out spring and fall, so that drop is because you can see this, the spring and fall cycles from last year. So in the spring at this time last year, we had slightly more applications, by about 50 or so. And so we'll see here, once we get to the fall cycle, if we end up close to that 400 number in total, or if it ends up being lower overall. So I think coming out of this, there'll be a couple of things we're thinking about for fall. We're gonna look at those counties that did not apply, especially those counties that had applied before in this program and didn't show up in this cycle. And I'll work with Ann on identifying some of those counties, and we'll make a big push in the fall to make sure that people know about the opportunity in the fall, that they're aware of it, and that we can probably pick up for those counties in that second cycle of APS. So I expect we'll get there. And I think, again, a lot of factors that play for this cycle and where some of the numbers. So that's the application piece. So just to give you a quick view of what the application looked like. So on the next slide, there is the breakdown of the applicants for this deadline that just passed. This is the type of activity that most people apply to do. This is a very standard, no deviations from what we typically see here. Most people are proposing to do some sort of concert performance or some sort of public performance of some sort. So thinking concerts in the park and shows at a local community center and things like that. That is a majority of what we see, as well as arts instruction. This is where a lot of arts education projects come through. And so these are coming through from libraries and schools and higher ed in particular. So a lot of K-12 arts education, and then a bunch of festivals as well, and some public art in there. So those are kind of the big buckets of areas that people applying for funds to do. And then here's a breakdown by the discipline of projects. So that blue and the orange and the green over there account for a little over 70% of the project disciplines that apply. So that's visual arts projects, music projects, and multidisciplinary projects. And these disciplines groupings are prescribed by the National Endowment for the Arts with the great piece. So this is also very standard. Those are the big disciplines that we see not only in this program, but across all of our programs, the main disciplines that people apply to new projects in. So just a quick preview of where we go from here. We are currently in the process of doing final reviews for eligibility with the IAC and our regional art partners. Are checking through all those applications, and then they will assign to external reviewers by the end of the month. And they will go in and score and give comments on those applications. And then once they are done with that, by May, we will review and provide initial funding recommendations, and then come to the full commission in June with funding recommendations for this cycle of project support, and they would begin their projects over the summer, running on the state fiscal year, July 1 to June 30. So that's our project support. Any questions on it?
Do you find that in the counties that applied once and then didn't reapply, is that a dearth of ideas or lack of communication, or perhaps people to fill out grants?
Yeah.
I guess you're maybe still gathering that data.
Yeah, definitely still assessing what happens there. I think a lot of times it is a people situation, and a lot of those counties, almost all of them are rural counties. A lot of them only had one applicant. There's only one person maybe spearheading it. So if that one person decides they don't want to manage that project, or a lot of people doing it on a volunteer basis, then they don't apply. And so a number of those counties are heavily person dependent, which is, we're working to kind of get more people and more organizations interested, but usually when we see them apply and not apply, it's usually.
Because the first time you apply for a grant, it's kind of scary, and you need the feedback while you're doing it, and then you get over that hump, that comfort zone.
Yes. And Ann does a great job of providing really high touch assistance to people, particularly who it's their first time applying for a grant, let alone to a state government entity as well, which adds another layer, I think, of stress because it's applying to the government or something. So we try to demystify the grant process as much as possible and provide one-on-one coaching, and our regional arts partners do that work as well. And Sharon and Kayla will probably speak to that here in a little bit on what their experience of project support was this cycle. So we do try to identify and then coach people on, particularly in those counties.
I also want to add that, first-time applicants do have the opportunity to receive a review of their draft application through the regional arts partner and staff as well. So they have that opportunity to have one final check before they actually submit the application, to see what ways it can improve, make sure that the application is completed.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Great report. Certainly a lot of activity going on and good to see the results. So this next item, Ian's going to provide the leadership for discussion. But as it's come to the commission, we've had some good discussion through the committees about our cultural districts. So we're looking forward to this part. Ian.
Morning, everybody. The community program that our cultural district program, sorry, Scott, I'm grateful for you. We'll just do, this has been on a brief hiatus. We're ready to relaunch this program, and I've been doing my due diligence, kind of researching what other state agencies do, talking to the cultural districts that exist right now, and going back through kind of historic data on this, but just a really quick, just to review on what a cultural district is. It exists in Indiana code. It gives Indiana Arts Commission the authority to create a cultural district, to designate one. And this was established in Indiana code in 2008. Since then, we've designated 12 cultural districts in Indiana. 2010 was our first round, and the most recent was in 2021. So you can see here on the map where those districts are currently. And see, next slide, please. Just wanted to kind of give you a brief overview of what the application looks like to become certified as a cultural district. So these are all of the application requirements. The most important piece here is that they have to prove that they are locally designated. So they have to have that local support. So a lot of the work that they do for that local designation, they can kind of copy and paste for our application. But we'll talk a little bit about, I'd love to hear your thoughts. We've had some discussion in committees about what maybe needs to be added to this, what needs to be edited, what you'd like to see as I'm kind of providing some instructions on their narratives, what's most important to kind of have those from this list. And we'll come back to this slide, but it's better than this one. So just historically, kind of some background information for you. There's no sort of tax incentive or automatic grant when you become a cultural district, but they are eligible for a $5,000 project support grant. Most districts have advantage of that every year. Because they get a grant from us, they're required to send the annual report, which they also do for their local municipalities. So that's not a huge heavy lift for them. Final grant reports, of course, are also required to measure that outcome, the outcomes and that impact. So that's a little more granular. And then they were invited to an annual consortium. We met as a group this past January. I wanted to introduce myself and kind of get a feel for where the districts were, what they were interested in doing, whether they were ready to recertify, and everyone said yes. So we're ready to move forward. And as I develop kind of the guidelines for this program, the application questions, the instructions for them, I would love to hear your thoughts on what should be included. So a few questions for discussion. As Dave mentioned, we've had committee meetings, great discussion in committee meetings. So I can kind of recap what we've talked about and see if there's anything additional that you'd like to see. But the first question is primary characteristics that a cultural district should be expected to demonstrate for certification and recertification. The second is the cadence for recertification. That's not something we've done in the past. But we also have several communities who are interested in becoming a cultural district. So I'd like to do this at the same time, certification, application, and then recertification as well. And then third, how might the IIC invest in or support cultural district formation and development? So for the first question, some of the discussion around what we should be looking for in a cultural district are authentic community impact, community engagement as well. Make sure that they have that local designation and support. That was really important. And then kind of in the narrative of their final report every year is that demonstrated growth and maintenance. They're meeting their goals that they set. They became a district. And then some of the feedback that we talked about was kind of simplifying the application process a little bit, but still making sure that it's still very similar. Anything else that you would add or any questions?
Someone mentioned prior about economic impact. I'd be interested to hear the economic impact of the current cultural districts. Just some data on that. I think that would also encourage others to do that, to apply.
Eric, do you want to say a word or two about Michael Hicks's work around the cultural district impact measurement? Just throw you on the spot there.
No, I'm saying, about that. Michael Hicks, with Ball State, had done some research on Indiana cultural districts 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and looked at a number of economic indicators specifically with Indiana cultural districts. And one of the big ones was home values. And they did find a positive correlation between home values and the presence of a cultural district in that area. And did find other sort of increases in some business starts and things of that nature as well. And so that was research that we commissioned with them and did find some of those things. And we also do have some specific kind of economic snapshots of each of the Indiana cultural districts that we have on the website as well, that kind of talks through basic economic numbers in the districts around number of entities and breakdown of some of the different arts disciplines that are there and whatnot. That data tends to lag because it relies on federal data around the Bureau of Economic Analysis and things of that nature, and it's sort of aggregated together, so it's usually at least 2 years behind. And I will note a lot of the satellite accounts at the federal level that tracked economic data with arts and culture, and this is a discussion for another day, but I'm putting a pin in it because it's something that we need to eventually figure out some mechanisms to still track it in Indiana, which is a lot of the satellite accounts are no longer going to exist. So there will not be some of the nationwide data that we had on economic impact of the arts will not exist at all anymore. And so we will need to find some different ways to gather that information and do a study around how cultural districts are impacting the region economically. And
Our question, Dr. Hicks, would set up.
it is not at the moment, but we could probably share that.
We talked about putting it on our website. I'm done.
I'd say that it's not the easiest nighttime reading.
There's a lot of, Greek letters.
There's a lot of symbols that go well over my head, but what we might do is try to pull out some things from that are kind of top line things to know that report that we can package and send around.
If we could, either on our website or around circulating around the commission, would be great information.
Maybe we could ping Brian Blackford over at ICI to see if they could help us do a layman's. It's such a show.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So the bench is the cultural second for $5,000 and then they decide projects. To support.
Yes.
They don't need to.
So they would, and historically, they would apply for a project like support. They would have a specific project though that they applied for to use that $5,000. Any other discussions?
Just because I'm new, I guess, I'm wondering if there is any other funding that if you become an arts and cultural district, not to the extent, but like Okra has the stellar community and that opens up a lot of opportunity for those communities to do different things. I know Dave's familiar with that being from Wabash. Is there anything that we can do in regard to, I guess, there being an opportunity for more than $5,000 for those communities that get that arts and cultural designation?
Yeah, that's something that we've been talking about internally, like what that would look like as an annual support for cultural districts that they get automatically. Some ideas are the Arts Trust Plate, using a percentage of that for cultural districts. And then in turn, they would be responsible for leveraging that and promoting that in their district to help kind of boost my sales a little bit. So that's an idea.
One other thing, and Miles will talk about this a little bit more when she talks about the ready cultural planning and projects, but a lot of those cultural plans lean on arts council and cultural districts to call them out as important resources. And so while this isn't necessarily in our direct control of way, a strategy like using the license plate revenue is, I think there is a strong foundation to have productive conversations with regional development authorities such as URAP and what partnerships or opportunities might be available to support those cultural districts as a piece of their regional economic development strategy.
And Dawn, we are absolutely, as Audrey mentioned earlier, we are starting to craft our FY 28-29 budget requests. And I would anticipate cultural district support and sort of community level support as being a component of an increased ask for our FY 20. So early yet, but we are absolutely thinking about ways.
Fabulous. I know I'll hear more about that in April.
I'm asking you one thing, right? But that's the first step. So absolutely, we are thinking about that.
Put it on the wish list.
Yes. And just one more fun fact, I'll just go back in the Wayback Machine for a second. Back, oh gosh, would have been probably 2012. No, I'm sorry, would have been about 2012. We attempted to try to get actually some legislation through the General Assembly to actually provide some funding, specific funding similar to tax incremental fund districts and so forth that would have been specifically for cultural districts. We did not get anywhere with that, although we did have some good conversations. That is also something down the line we could think about, similar to other economic development districts the state has. We'd have to bring some other partners along, like economic development and other folks that obviously the legislature really had to cover. But that is a tool we thought about a while back, and it could be something that we as a way for the districts themselves to capture their own revenue and have some determination of how they allocate it, spend it on cultural investment districts. But we absolutely thought about that, but it's been a while.
That's great. And also have, we saw any private funding?
Yeah, well, actually, we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll touch on that a little bit when I talk a little bit about Ready.
Okay. I was wondering, because like, I forget his last name, Rena probably knows, Chuck from Sweetwater.
Right.
I know he's very involved in revitalization of downtowns and things. And I just wonder if there aren't some private individuals out there that are, that would give toward the arts and culture districts as well.
Reagan, Dan. Thank you. Yeah. For cultural districts recertification, I wanted to ask what the cycle is, if that is an annual review or if that is going to be extended.
Yes, so for recertification, where we kind of landed was 5 to 7 year payments with possibly a 3-year check-in. So we highlight them, so look for the PR bump at that 3-year mark. Just to check in, make sure that we want to coordinate that with their goals. So it's a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that we're checking in. Thank you.
Yeah, I did want to make a comment back to Dawn's, and then while I'm thinking about Greg's most recent comment, I think being a part of that conversation in the committee about the cadence of recertification, it seemed like this is not an easy designation to get, and it seemed just wrong to say, well, a year later, let's see if you're still culturally relevant in your district. you know, that we would say that a longer cadence made some sense and that we could rest assured that they're probably good for 3 or 5 years in terms of that significance, culturally speaking. But getting back to the idea of $5,000, one of the things that came up in the committee discussion was, well, are there some things that are kind of shared desires amongst the districts? We talked about wayfindings, for instance, being something that's a big deal for all these. How do people know that they're in one and how to navigate these things? Now, in my experience, $5,000, you're not going to get a talented graphic designer to even talk to you or have coffee with you for $5,000. But maybe if you pooled that money together and the cultural districts got together and said, what if we had one strategy for us? Now you can hire some talent. Now you can get behind something with more dollars. And I wonder if you're convening these folks on a regular basis and, you know, that this could be a subject of conversation. You guys all want to go in on a wayfinding scheme and that can hit on some advertising and wayfinding and actually make it a graphically coherent and beautifully designed thing. Maybe that can have some impact and it could stretch those, it can have those dollars go further by benefiting.
And be cohesive across the districts, yeah.
And that's one example, but I'm sure there are others in which there could be a kind of unifying project or theme, and then you're getting together as the districts and saying, wow, we could all benefit from that, or even, you know, if half of them say, we're gaining.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, my goal is to have check-ins quarterly every year with the cultural districts, just virtually, but then if I come for an in-person consortium, but yeah, I collaborating and we have the authority to do that and work together.
I want to add on to Daniel's comment. First, a thank you to Greg and his committee, which really, along with Ann, really started the conversation with the commission. And we got a lot of good input out of that discussion that has continued to move to today. The second thing that we talked about was the idea of how do you get the cultural districts to work on it. So the wayfinding was a great recognition. So you have a path. I want to go to each culture district or you have two that are relatively close together that can do events together was a possibility. It may not be as possible. There's a great distance, but heard of it. Other thoughts on this? Anyone? I think we've all got to be free too.
Yes, yes, thank you. Next steps, I'm gonna be working in between now and the 2 p.m. to create the guidelines, evaluation criteria, the scoring program, both for certification and recertification. I'll present that to you in June. We haven't looked at open applications in mid-summer of this year. And then come back to you in September with some updates, any new districts at that time, and then start the recertification cycle in January of 2027. We'll meet as a group, as a cultural district group.
And one quick question: when you compete in all the country districts, did they all participate?
Not all, most. So, I would say 8%.
Yeah, good. Thank you again for what you've done. A lot of hard work. I mean, bringing us to where we are today, and I can. Thank you very much. Okay, this is the point where we have a small break. So I've got my clock out. Maya tells me we can have 10. Okay, so on
12 minutes, how about, make it 12 minutes,
Well,
yeah,
Never done that.
yeah, I'm going crazy now, yeah.
Okay, so that'll get us to 10:30 Central or 11:30 Eastern.
Yeah.
Or as Scott's call it, just 10:30.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed like this meeting's
Yeah.
all the time
Yeah.
in this part of the state.
So for those of you on Zoom, we will start up again at 10:30.
Central.
Here. And on the clock. Continue on the ballot.
10:30 on the clock.
Thank you.
So we
meeting. Here we have a lot of good discussion. Right. And we have more important information to share. So.
He's also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
Okay. All right, we're gonna reconvene the balance of our meeting today. And next up, Jordan is gonna provide a presentation. So Jordan, take it away. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna talk about artist services. First, I'm gonna give you a verbal update on the one region. Since it's smack dab in the middle of our March QBM and our June QBM. This year it is being hosted in Indianapolis, our host Indianapolis Arts Council, May 13th through the 15th. Evaluations for this cohort just closed last night. And we have a special group of evaluators, which are our local trainees. If you remember, this is our last central cohort of the ORMIC program, and we're moving into local models. So those groups are North Central Indiana Small Business Development Center branch up in South Bend. And then we have in the central part of the state, the Indianapolis Arts Council, and then in the southern part of the state, we have Center for Rural Engagement at IU. So we're excited to get those people started. They're evaluating those applications as we speak. They just finished, and we'll kind of announce cohort to you, kind of wrap up all of what happened in the workshop. Okay. Beanie, yes.
For our new commission, what is on-ramp?
Yes, thanks for that. So OnRamp is our premier creative entrepreneur accelerator. It is a combo program where we have a 3-day workshop where business information is emerging artists who are first in their portfolio career with community engagement as its foundation. And then they move into a 1-year fellowship. They have the opportunity to apply for a 1-year fellowship that is worth $2,000. Where they kind of apply all the lessons that they learned in that workshop. So we started in 2018. We took a year off last year for evaluation. We're kind of implementing some of the things that we learned last year, this year, with some different models. We're having Ann come in to talk community engagement. We have more alumni engagement this year. So we're really excited for this last hurrah. Any questions on OnRamp before I jump into quickly? All right. So creatively, if you remember or you don't remember, we conducted a large artist needs assessment in 2023 and 2024, where we conducted 11 listening sessions across the state, followed by a survey with over 600 responses with artists who participated in those listening sessions, as well as just artists beyond in our state. And so we designed a suite of programs to speak to business development, and the Creative Leap was one of those programs. And so the program is for sustaining and scaling entrepreneurs who are revisiting their business strategy. So the program speaks to the needs that were extracted from the artist needs assessment, marketing support and education, financial support and education, and local access. Through that application process, the artists submitted goals kind of related to their marketing financial needs in their business. The program consisted of 4 workshops, virtual workshops. They had core content in those 4 weeks, and then 2 subsequent workshops where we kind of talked about their progress toward those goals, and those were held in September and December of last year. Slide. So we conducted an impact evaluation with Dr. Elaine Rowe-Trail of Minerva Financial Arts, who is the lead curriculum designer, facilitator for this program, as well as OnRamp. And we talked about these different components of the workshops. So survey results, things pulled from the workshop, observations made, participant feedback, as well as the improvements we are recommending for our next iteration. So survey, we usually do a pre and post workshop survey. This program particularly focused on 4 statements. They spoke to the presence of clear goals for the business, confidence in the realm of accomplishing those goals, as well as being able to apply them to their financial forecast. And then lastly, just metrics developed to kind of track progress toward those goals. And so we saw the biggest change in metrics toward those goals. So kind of developing their own KPIs, because what's the goal if you hit it, knowing where you're going. So we saw the biggest change there. Next slide, please. So these slides show you where they started pre-workshop versus post-workshop in that dark blue. Everybody usually started at a 3 or a 4 with these statements, and then everyone moved to a 4 and a 5 in agreement with the statements, how they felt. And they're the same statements I just named: presence of clear goals, confidence with the accomplishment of those goals. Next slide. Being able to apply them to their financial forecast, as well as progress with metrics involved. So things, accountability was a big one. So goals and expectations, how do you get there without accountability? They really appreciate being accountable by our facilitator, us as an agency, as well as each other. So here are some folks on accountability that they gave us. And then community. We thrive on cohort-based models. So with accountability comes community, and they really enjoy being able to be with other artists, hear about their businesses, get their challenges as well as successes as well. So this is a part about the community built there. And then the instructors, if you've met Elaine, if you haven't, you gotta come to Elaine. She is a gem and a tool, and everybody loves her, as well as just the expertise that she holds and the way she's able to approach artists overall. Next slide. Observations. So mostly everyone was able to accomplish their goals. Collaborations were impactful. Had branding and marketing experts helping other people. Had craftsmen with woodworking and leather goods working with each other. We had classical musicians working with each other. And so it's just a great sight to see there. They were all comfortable sharing their challenges. It's very vulnerable to say, I don't know what I'm doing. This is not working anymore, and they kind of feel comfortable with the fact that there. And then participants shared impactful wins within their systems. So kind of thinking through how they're tracking their goals, the metrics that we just talked about, as well as marketing. So social media was a big component talked about there. Then their technical skills within their creative disciplines, kind of speaking to how they're amping up their skills there, and then just confidence overall. So what did we hear from these participants? They wanted us to adjust timing. So each workshop started from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then the way that the workshops were kind of composed, they wanted to kind of change the agenda. Payment schedule. So we marketed the honorarium. So all participants received an honorarium of $1,000. We marketed that honorarium to put towards businesses identified with their goals. And so we told them that they would get that at the end of the 4th workshop. That did not happen. And I got some calls about that, but they were happy overall. They just wanted to see that money quicker possible. Champagne problems. And then tailor goals and make a group project. So they really wanted to collaborate even further. They collaborated on their own with the projects that I just named, but they wanted to have an actual project. They wanted to hear from guests. They love Elaine, but they want to hear from other people, other different experts. And then ISC branding posts to share. So again, when we talk about marketing, social media, they wanted to be able to share their participation in this program and provide credibility to their discipline business. So recommended improvements, considering that feedback. So communication changes. So application. If you want to talk about what those goals setting look like, the application, we want to talk about honorarium promotion. So it's not to be put towards your business goals, it's the conversation for your time. We understand that we're pulling you away from your artistic practice where you make money. So we want to have that. Community changes, so they want to gather each other's information to be able to share more fully. In OnRep, we usually do a Facebook group for alumni, so there's some opportunities there for that. And then tweaking the programmatic plan, they want to shift the workshop timing, again, having more time for homework deadlines. We always have homework to support their goals and kind of talk to coaching their goals as well. So they want to have more deadlines to kind of get that work done, have insight there. The insight changes overall, just invite 2 to 3 more experts. So you might see a bit of a large response to that iteration. Our next go around. Next slide. So these are just some participant highlights. Emily is a fiber artist who has worked at the museum. She got her tarot out, and she designed our Governor Arts Awards. So she was able to win the wholesale deal. So, Tracy is a leather good designer. Was hosting DIY workshops for people to make bags, journal covers, wallets. So at the time of recording, he was at 60% selling out those workshops. I think now he's selling out. I think he has a whiskey and something workshop going. So fun times. And then Audrey is a musical theater specialist, and she was fully on track. She got to partner with a SCORE mentor, and SCORE is the service for retired executives. So she has a mentor there. And so you can read on and on about these particular accomplishments. Victoria has a inquiry with Boston Symphony. She works with the Indianapolis Symphony. And so everybody's doing amazing. They're working towards even larger goals now. We're just so happy to be a part of their success journey. I will say that we are thinking of sequencing these programs better, to kind of think of how artists might progress through our programs overall, whether they're sustaining or scaling, whether they're emerging artists with a portfolio career, or whether they're really basically the process of starting. So we're looking forward to kind of speaking to the review that we just did and seeing what we can do better next go around. Any questions?
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Great report, a lot of good activity going on. We want to move to a report from our Regional Arts Partnership Consortium. We're pleased to have both Sherry and Kayla on the call, so we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah. Good morning, still morning, everybody. Almost. This meeting's going along really nicely, very smoothly and quickly. Just to follow up to Jordan on another one of the artist service programs that I have a little connection with this year, which was the Works in Progress program, and one of our regional artists will be his project through the Works in Progress program was it helped him to get his art book published. And just to let you know, he's going to be presenting an artist talk on his book and the whole process at our closing exhibition for our current exhibition coming up in April. So just to see that those programs are out there doing their work and benefiting the community. So thank you, Jordan, for great programming there. So we'll just kind of do a cap of what's happening out here with all the partners. Eric's already talked about fiscal 27 arts project support. Currently, grant applications are being reviewed by RAPS for completeness, with a deadline of completing that process Monday, March 16th. I think we all saw the trends as Eric reported, a fewer applications for the spring cycle for whatever reason, probably because a lot of them are going to wait and apply in the fall because it works better for their timelines and funding cycles. So we'll be anxious to see what happens in the fall with those. I know at the last minute, what I thought was going to be very much fewer applications changed because I got a little bump like within the last week. So I was pretty much, I think, on target for what I usually receive in the spring cycle. But we're busy with those, and ongoing, of course, we're always reviewing the fiscal 26 final grant reports coming in. They kind of start streaming in as soon as those open up as projects finish. And so we're also reviewing those for completeness as they're submitted. We're also deep into implementing our various capacity building activities as part of our service delivery plans for arts organizations, arts providers, and artists in our region, and keeping the IAC comms team informed of those activities that we are doing so that they can be shared out, particularly those activities targeting audiences beyond our regions. So we're busy with those. Some of examples of some of those programs that are happening, networking, artist networking meetups, arts organization, regional roundtables, grants making workshops, and so on. And then I know that we are planning an in-person RAP meeting in Indianapolis sometime early summer, where I think we're going to be working with a facilitator and actually examining what those next year's service delivery plans might look like. So that's something to look forward to in June. I think that's really about all that I have to share in terms of Ready. We know that some of our RAPs are involved with the regional arts and culture plans in various degrees. I know we're pretty involved here in Region 6. We just convened a meeting this past week to kind of look at what some of the ideas of and what kind of questions people have about the Ready grant. And we did this kind of in advance of when Maya's going to be coming to Terre Haute, so that maybe we'd have more focused questions and better formed ideas as we get to talk with her. Also, I think there was a little bit of talk earlier about cultural districts. I'm pretty active with our cultural district here, and that, you know, we are definitely looking at Ready opportunities for our cultural districts in terms of regional arts planning. So I think if you have any questions, I think Kayla, I think maybe I've hit all the high points.
Yeah, I think you covered it. Thanks so much.
Okay, great. We're just always doing our thing here.
Great.
Any
Well,
questions?
Sherry and Kayla both, thanks for doing your thing. And certainly a
We're
lot
just
of
happy
great
to do it.
activity going on, and really appreciate your being here to share a report. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. We're going to move to a report on Ready. So Sherry's teed that up.
Yeah,
Maya, so
great.
take it
Thank
away.
you, Sherry.
Yeah.
So Ready. Actually, I got a question at the reception last night, from someone who asked, why is economic development partnering with the Arts Commission to provide support for arts projects? And my response was, I want everyone to partner with arts organizations to support arts projects. So my response is, it's exactly what we want to see, and we want to see more of it. So just a little table setting there. So I've talked at previous meetings about Ready, and we're now deep into it. I want to give you a little bit of a snapshot of kind of where we are. First, I'm going to table set about what it is exactly and where we are in the process, and share with you a little bit of what we've learned so far in the process. Next slide, Andre, please. So what is Ready? It is the Regional Economic Accelerator and Development Initiative. It's an acronym. And as Judith pointed out, state government loves acronyms, right? So this is Ready 2.0. I'll go back in the Wayback Machine for just a second. State of Indiana, a few years back, had an initiative called Regional Cities, which was an attempt by the state's Economic Development Corporation, the IEDC, Indiana Economic Development Corporation, to encourage regional planning, regional investment, regional economic development thinking, and so forth. And so regional cities went for, I want to say, a year, 2 years, and then IEDC launched this new initiative called Ready. It was Ready.1. which was primarily funded through ARPA, federal COVID recovery dollars, and what those dollars went for were essentially economic development projects that were regionally focused. And so, and I'll show you here in a minute, but the IEDC divided the state of Indiana into 15 regions. Unlike our 11, they had to best us. So they have 4 more regions than we do. Of course, our regions don't neatly align. There is some alignment in some areas, but there's been ready 1.0, 2.0, and now 2.0, which is where we are now, is there's a tranche of funds that go through Ready 2.0, and then there is some additional funding for arts and culture as well as blight. We're not going to talk about blight because blight is not our thing. But what the Ready 2.0 Arts and Culture Initiative is a $65 million statewide investment in supporting arts and culture projects across the 15 Ready regions. Okay, $65 million supporting arts and culture projects, regionally based. It is administered by the IEDC, the Economic Development Arm, the state, in partnership with us. And we are so grateful that IEDC has brought us in to work alongside them. I think we've been a value add to the process to kind of help them make sure that they get the outcomes they seek, which is, again, to invest in quality of life, quality of place across the state by working with arts and culture partners. And that's what we're really good at. So I think we've been a value add in the process. This opportunity has been made possible by the Lilly Endowment. The Lilly Endowment back in 2024 awarded to IEDC $250 million, $165 million of it is for blight projects, and then $65 million is for arts. Next slide, Andre. So this program, this initiative has 2 phases. First is the planning phase, which wrapped up in December of 2025, where each of the 15 regions developed a regional arts and culture plan funded through dollars provided by the IEDC, thanks to the endowment. Each region got $100,000 to do a regional arts and culture plan. We could never do that. We could never provide $1.5 million in regional arts and culture plan. So just from the outset, it's already a win for us as a state as it relates to the work that has been done via these dollars in developing regional plans. The second phase, which we are in the middle of now, is there's an opportunity to apply for funding. And that opportunity is open until the middle of April. And it is available for projects that advance a region's arts and culture. Started with the planning, I'm moving to the funding. There are all kinds of projects that are eligible, and you see on the screen, and I won't go through all of them. This is just sort of an idea generator for potential applicants of some of the things that this funding could support. Yeah, we're in the process. We're right in the middle of it right now, having a lot of conversations with individual arts organizations, communities, economic development groups, tourism, and so forth about potential projects. The IEC, Eric and his team are helping. Our grant application portal is the intake application portal for this opportunity, which gives us a window into every single one of these applications, which is phenomenal. That is also a win for us because we're going to get a look at project applications and people's ideas from across the state. And that's phenomenal. And people are able to think, obviously, we provide operational support, organizational support, as well as project support. Our project support grants are $4,000. So we get a chance to see what people would like to do if they were able to dream big in really interesting ways. And again, that's a phenomenal opportunity for us. So I want to go next slide, please, Andre, if you would. Thank you. So I want to circle back and talk about the plans. So this is the Indiana Ready site. If you go to indianaready.com/resources, you can see their regional map on the left, which again, 15 regions versus our 11. These are all 15 of the regional arts and culture plans that are available to read. They run the gamut, all sorts of interesting ideas, all sorts of interesting, they all were asset-based planning, focusing on what was strong within the region, but also identifying vision, goals, aspirations, where we'd like to be, and so forth. Each plan is as different and unique as the regions themselves, and it's been a real joy to see what regions have put together. What I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about, and you got a long memo from me in your packet that sort of looks at sort of the big picture. I tried to go through and look at all 15 plans and pick out sort of 12 themes that sort of come up over and over again in the planning process. We can't do anything with this right now except just sit with it, know that it's there. It could inform our future planning, could inform future funding requests and so forth. But again, you will see longer explanations of this in the packet. But here are 12 themes that we have seen across all the plans. Probably those of us who have spent time much in the art space, probably none of these are a surprise to any of us. But it was interesting to see, frankly, how easy it was to pull together 12 themes. And we did not provide any kind of guidance to each of the regions to say your plan must look like this, or your plan must, be structured in this way. We kind of let them choose their own adventure related to their planning process. And it was really interesting to see how these themes sort of fell easily together. So I'll start with the first one, obviously, facilities, venues, and creative spaces. No big surprise there. Everything from obviously big facilities to very small spaces, creative entrepreneurship spaces, co-working spaces to multi-million-dollar, facilities. And there are plenty of places in the state that aren't within a real comfortable drive to a performing arts facility, cultural arts facility. Size. So we certainly saw that kind of across the board. Public art placemaking. Lots and lots of interest in public art and placemaking across the state, from very small places to very large places. Creative workforce development and career pathways. Not too surprisingly, since this is, we're partnering up with economic development, there was a real recognized realization from these regions that they want to try to figure out how to keep a creative workforce in their regions, in their communities, how to both attract and retain creative workforce. So how can they, and they also, there was also a lot of interest in how to help young people understand that a career in the arts or a career in the creative field is possible. So how to do that? So a lot that came up, frankly, more than I thought it would. It's great to see that regions are really thinking hard about how can we think about creating visible creative pathways for the arts for young people. Youth engagement and leadership, both youth engagement in the arts in and of itself, but then also engaging youth in leadership roles in building the arts in their regions came up fairly frequently, which is great. The idea of if we want to retain young people, we need to give them a role and they need to be at the table and driving the conversation that's around how to build out where they live. And that came up numerous times. Cultural tourism and signature events. Cultural tourism, somewhat from the promotion standpoint, as in we want to make sure that folks know what we have happening in our regions, but also in some cases, we need to build out signature events in our regions that bring people together. We don't have it. We want a big festival. We want what South Bend has, or we want what Lafayette has. We want to have signature events that bring people together. And something that isn't here, but is a thread that went through the entirety of these plans, is that people recognize the value of coming together. Coming together, just the exercise of coming together, then also the importance of the arts in bringing together. So signature events was one pathway they saw as bringing together. Regional collaboration and networking. Folks, this regional planning sort of forcing folks to think regionally. We're getting people in a room who were like, I didn't know. Or I didn't know you were doing this across town. So the value in bringing people together to talk about how can we work together is a thing that has really risen up, and we are actually seeing that in some of the potential project applications we'll see through this funding, is that some of these could be consortium applications where there are numerous organizations or entities within a single region in the project. Sustainable funding and policy infrastructure, right? No surprise there. Funding, obviously, it continues to be a theme that folks want to see again available to their region. And then policy, both local and state and federal. You know, how can we advance policies at the local level that help increase investment in the arts? What kind of policies might be available at the state level and so forth. But the recognition that policy is a potential solution or a potential additive to this was interesting. Did not expect to see that. Historic preservation and cultural heritage, no surprise there. Lot of interest, especially from smaller communities, in supporting the small historic places that they have, whether it's a history museum or that vaudeville theater that's sat vacant in there. The value of that historic preservation, but then also cultural heritage, telling the story, preserving, but then also being open to new cultural traditions that are coming into the community came up frequently. And here's where Ann comes in. Downtown revitalization and arts districts. Lots and lots of regions very interested in developing cultural districts and arts districts. And several of them elevated them to a high priority. If we had a long time for a longer conversation, we could talk a little bit about why we think that might happen. But these people who have been involved in this planning process see Arts District as an opportunity to do something important for the arts. They're not thinking about the $5,000 grant that might be at the other end of that. It's a value to them. And so that it was really fortuitous that Ann has been on this cultural district planning work here in the last few months. When we saw this result, it was like, well, we are really well timed here in how we can relaunch our cultural district program to kind of meet the moment for what communities tell us that they want. Last three, inclusive arts programming for all ages. Lots and lots of interest for programming on sort of both ends of the spectrum for older adults. And obviously we're meeting the moment in our creative aging and lifelong arts work, but then also arts programming for young people and children in particular. So lots of recognition for that. Digital infrastructure, marketing and storytelling, both in the communication side, but then also in technology. The regions couldn't be more different as to how they're constituted, but regardless of whether it was a big city or a small community, regions told us over and over again, we need help getting the word out. And so you think in a larger city where there are more outlets to get your message out, they are just as challenged as people in small places in getting the message out. So a lot to think about there. But that was really interesting. We sort of knew that anecdotally, but it was interesting to see that more out in what showed up for the regional plans. And then the last one is intergenerational knowledge sharing and community connection. That focused somewhat on artists and how artists can both work together, mentor each other, and how artists can help connect to. So those are the 12 big. I encourage you, if you have time to dig into some of these regional plans, or particularly the plan in your region, to take a look at what it says. And I should have said this from the beginning. This planning process was not just bringing arts organizations together to develop plans. Plans were all highly engaged with community. So these are folks in these regions telling us what they want to see happen, not just arts people telling us what they want to see happen, which again was why some of these findings are so interesting, especially as it relates to the creative workforce development and so forth. That this is everyone telling us. So more to come on that. We're still sitting with this, digesting it, trying to figure out how we might respond. Former Commissioner Icamp was saying, was bringing up earlier the challenge of every new plan we start or new project or program we start, maybe something else has to go away. So we have to be really mindful in a constrained resource situation for us, how we can potentially respond, which again speaks to why it's so important for us to build partnerships and relationships with others to kind of help move some of this work forward. So that's kind of where we are sort of right now, sitting with it and thinking about how, in addition to this ready opportunity, might help activate some of these ideas. So I'll go back to the funding piece for just a second. As I mentioned, we're in the middle of the application intake process. That closes April 15. The commission itself will have no responsibility in making funding recommendations or approving funding. So I take a big sigh of relief there that you don't have to do that. We are helping the Ready team, who have been fantastic to work with in working through this process, and we will be active in that. But at the end of the day, the responsibility for these funding recommendations will rest with the IEDC Commission. That being said, it's a $65 million going to arts and culture projects, so we all benefit, right? And so I will be back once the funding announcement is made, with some learnings from what we saw in the applications, and obviously once the funding decisions are made, kind of where that landed and so forth. So it's a lot. Some of us are taking the over on 300 applications, and that would not surprise me. It has opened a floodgate of interest across the state that would never have made possible otherwise. And so their investment in this is, I think it'll be a game changer for us. So super excited. It's been a lot for the programs team. It's been a lot for Brett. In Austin, we're taking a lot of calls from folks who are new to us. And it's been a lot of one-on-one conversations and meetings and so forth. But at the end of the day, we're going to have a window into what's out there. So super exciting. So stay tuned. Probably not June, because they don't make their final funding decision or announcement until July. So it'll probably be September before I'm back to you with a little bit more. I can tell you in June how many applied. And if we're still upright after this, but stay tuned for September and December for updates. I'm happy to answer any questions about this. I know we've been talking about this now for years, right? And we are finally kind of where the rubber meets the road as it relates to the funding. Any questions?
Maya, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for all. I know this is a huge amount of extra work on the commission, but it's also a very exciting opportunity. My biggest question, personally, and also from constituents around me, seems to be about the recommended, though not necessarily required, matching funds.
Yeah.
Which, as I understand it, and I'm an architect. I'm okay at math. Okay at math, but maybe not great. So as I understand it, there's like a 1-to-1 recommended public match to Ready. And a 3-to-1 private to Ready. So if I need $1 from Ready, I may need to also hit the streets and find $3 private dollars.
Right. To make
and then $1 from the city. And so if I need $5, Ready's willing to give me about $1 for the project. Am I doing the math right there?
You're doing the math right, and thank you for asking that question. Because great opportunity in working with an economic development institute funding is that we're working with an economic funding and managed to get resources to put forward to the sector that we've not had before. So we'll say that's great. The challenge in working with an economic development entity is that there are certain things that they have to do that we don't have. First one, and I'll start with something you didn't bring up, is that the The funding that will go out via this opportunity are reimbursement grants. It's not something our sector is really familiar with. When we sign a contract with them, they generally get, if not all the dollars, and most of the dollars out. So that is how IEDC operates. We have been in conversation with various arts organizations that find that a challenge and have been working to connect them with opportunities to get some potential support on the front end, should they be awarded, and so that they can manage that. So we know that's a challenge. We knew that was a challenge from the get-go. The match issue is it's been a nettlesome one, and that again is a ready requirement or a ready expectation. That being said, it's recommended and encouraged to have a match, but it's not a requirement. And so I would anticipate that we will have quite a few applications that have no match at all, or have very little match, or certainly may not make that one-to-one. We're also encouraging folks to think broadly as it relates to match. There is a look back period, but we're really getting in the weeds now. There's a look back period to 2023 for the match. So yeah, Daniel, we can have a sidebar on this. So if a project is asking for funding for a particular component of the project, but the project's been going for some period of time, then what's been expended could potentially 2023 on to be part of the match. So there is some flexibility there. And we're getting really down in the weeds when we start talking about that. That's not anything that has been expended on the project previous to July 1 of this year is not reimbursable. In other words, you can't get money for what you spent on June 30th, but match dollars, or what you may have expended on the project previous, it can be included as the match, if that's helpful. Again, this is IEDC's world and kind of how they work. It's important for them to show to the legislature, to the General Assembly, the funds, the leveraging of their funds, as in what their dollars do and how it leverages public and private funds. That being said, there is flexibility around match. So I would encourage folks, if you have questions, I'm happy to sort of talk through it. Yes. Projects that have match will get some priority and review, but it isn't going to be a game changer or a deal breaker for IEDC, because they recognize from onset, been telling them for months, this is not a sector that number one has ability to manage a cash reimbursement grant or an expense reimbursement grant, and then also a match at this level, especially on the private side. So they're aware of that, and they're working with it and being flexible. Show that. I will say the good news. I talked a minute ago about how the Lilly Endowment provided $250 million, 165 of it went for blight. The great news on the blight side is the blight way overmatched the requirement. So if we aggregate blight and arts together in a single pot, we're in good shape. We're in pretty good shape as it relates to the match. So blight way overmatched the 1-to-1 and 3-to-1. So we've got a little bit to work with again. We're really doing. So apologies for that. But so it has been a challenge, and again, it has been a challenge in particular to help folks understand kind of how they can think about match a little bit more broadly than they've been thinking about before. And I'm happy to sidebar if there's specific questions you have. Anything else you can answer?
A couple of questions.
Yeah.
Is there a priority for programs or?
Great question. Yeah. And I would say the answer is no. What the primary review criteria that we're asking you to take a look, obviously, and the project happened, is the value of the project. But the primary thing that we're focusing on, the reviewers that we focus on, is the extent to which the project advances the goals of the regional arts and culture. So that could be programming. That could also obviously be infrastructure, be all the other things that put up there that are also will no doubt have folks who come up with set up outside. What's great about this program versus Ready's other investment is that Ready tends to invest in capital infrastructure. And that because this opportunity offers the ability to apply for programming, that's great. So there won't be preference. It really will be focused on the extension. And in fact, in a lot of the one-on-one conversations I've had with folks, I've encouraged them to think more along the lines of programming versus capital. One other thing I didn't mention, I'm sure there's more than one, that I didn't mention is that these funds have to be expended by December 31st. Real short sweep. But we have a lot of folks who come to us, really ambitious, interesting, great, awesome, infrastructure projects that they would not be able to complete unless they've got some kind of line or a superset of construction firms and builders that they could accomplish by 2028. So what we've encouraged applicants who are potential applicants who are thinking about facilities, that if it feels like that's going to be a really stretch for them, especially if they've not done it, to really think about these funds as a potential for a feasibility study or some planning work. Because we always want organizations to be well prepared for either a facility expansion or a first-time facility. We're seeing a lot of folks who reach out who have been looking at that historic building on the square forever and ever, and they know this is their opportunity to get it and put their arts council in that facility. And especially if it's an organization that may not have had experience in managing a facility, we're really encouraging them to think about those dollars as a potential way to some feasibility study and some operational modeling income or revenue generation planning and so forth. So, but long-winded answer, as you know, you get the A to the programming versus capital. So
Okay,
they're all,
follow.
yeah, please go.
Okay, is there an in-person collaboration? Multiple are initiatives or do they care about?
I would thank you for asking that. The projects that have either partners or are collaborative or consortium applications, we all get a slide bump in the evaluation and priority. And a consortium project is a project where several parties are working together to do a single thing. Partners are, we're working with a variety of organizations that are going to help us accomplish this, but they're not actually doing them. So we are encouraging organizations, especially if they're not it's not a consortium application, but they make sure that they have partners. We want everyone to always have partners. So tell us who you're working with. Tell us for whatever this is that you're proposing, who you're going to be working with to either implement the thing or who will work with when the thing accomplishes or who will benefit and so forth. So making sure that we're encouraging folks to think about partnerships really carefully. And again, back to what I said a minute ago, it has been stunning how powerful it has been to get people in a room who don't know each other, especially not just regionally, but in the same community. I was on the phone with somebody from the Bloomington, the Uplands region, and this was a meeting to talk about opportunities, and those 40 people, there were probably half of them together. And this is very Bloomington, not a particularly large place. So it's a great opportunity to make connections and networks, and again, hopefully work together on some projects. Any other questions? Okay, I'll check your ears off, guys. Sorry. Oh, and I do want to give a shout out. Sherry mentioned it as well as Kayla. Our partners, our regional arts partners. You know, Ready Regions are 15. The IEC partner network is 11. A lot of our regional arts partners have been really involved in this process and have really done great work in convening folks, having conversations, tapping people on the shoulder, saying, I think you ought to look at this opportunity and so forth. So partners have really been really important in this process to be kind of in the middle of it and to be a great connector to our regional economic development folks who don't always know all the arts people
Just some choice of ours. So partnership. I need to give that a shout out.
Good, great, super. Thanks very much. Good information that is of interest all over the state right now. So a lot of interest. And I'm really excited to see the IAC a part of this process. And I think that really says a lot for the leadership that Maya's done and all the work. Well, okay, back to our agenda. Item 6, we had no items to consider from the consent agenda, so we'll go to old and new business. And
Yeah, so our poet laureate is Curtis Chrysler, he's from Fort Wayne. His contract has been extended for two more years, so 27. Just wanted to update them.
yeah, am I correct? Send it to us
Yes.
before prior.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Just finished this. Yep.
Can I get the POL update or Eric?
I think this is me.
Okay.
Poetry Out Loud, okay. There are the participants. Poetry Out Loud is a poetry recitation competition. We are required to do this by the National Endowment for the Arts. The funding for this program comes from the National Endowment for the Arts. And this is a high school poetry recitation competition. And so those all the students are from all over the state. I should give a special shout out to Gavin Lacefield, who's from the early college high school here in Evansville. Since we're in Evansville, Gavin participated. And in the next photo, you'll see some of the winners here. Before I talk about them though, we hosted this in partnership with Indiana Humanities. You can see their sign there, Think, Read, Talk on the far left. We've hosted this with them for the past 2 years. Hosted at the Indiana Historical Society on February 21st. And on the far left were our wonderful MCs for that event. Aaliyah and Shrupita being the national champion in 2023. And Aaliyah was our state champion in 24. Yes, and they've been great advocates for the poetry community and conveners for the poetry community since winning the POL state championship. So it was great to have them a part of the event. In the center, there's Jada from University High School in Carmel, who is our 2026 state champion, who will be going to Washington, D.C. in the spring to compete with all the other state territory champions from across the country. And then Mina Dubante, Franklin Central in Indianapolis, who was our runner-up, holding beautiful awards made for the ceremony. So again, a huge shout out to the Indiana Humanities team to make this possible. It's always a really incredible event, and the anthology of poetry that students write from is curated through the National Endowment for the Arts. So there's a set anthology that's pick poetry to read from, and there are multiple rounds. So even getting to the state finals is a wonderful accomplishment, and also huge thanks to the participating schools and teachers and coaches who work along the way and give them feedback and other advice to get there. So that's our poetry out loud update.
Does the poetry anthology go way back? Because there was a poetry anthology that I had a couple poems in. I was in high school. Oh, maybe I won't even hear it. 70 and 71, 69 and 70. But they were, I'd also like to brag on Du Bois County. We had 2 finalists in that group, Huntingburg and Jasper.
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, good. Yep.
So the poetry anthology is put together by the National Endowment for the Arts, and so they select poetry that's in the public domain. Or that's what was. It's great to see. It's great to see students from across the state come together. So. Yeah. All right.
I have one other new business item if I could. I want to just give a quick update on Lifelong Arts Indiana, and for the people in the room, there's a booklet sitting in front of you, a hard booklet that Lifelong Arts Indiana. This is the new toolkit that we just released that is provides templates and descriptions and case studies of our work supporting older adults across the state through Arts Learning initiatives. And we will be hosting the Creative Aging Summit in person in Indianapolis on March 23rd, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. And really excited to say also that we literally sold out that event. And so we're hopeful to have well over 100 people there learn about creative aging, and attendees to that include healthcare systems, libraries, other aging service providers, arts organizations, artists. So this is one of the first public statewide convenings we've done since the Arts Homecoming Conference, which was pre-COVID. So we're excited to convene this field around supporting older adults. So I just wanted to give a quick update on that to see how that resource.
Thanks, Sarah.
March 23rd, Monday, March 23rd.
We'll also give a shout out to the communications teams who are putting this together as well. It's a lot of work and a lot of hours on it, and it looks amazing, and it's great that it's been delivered to people across the state.
Yeah, and while we're shouting out the communications team, we did sell it out. Gwendolyn, who's online, has been a big part of that effort to get all those materials ready and out the door. And so a big shout out to Gwendolyn for all her work on the summit.
Yes.
Good, great. Andre.
I'll close this us with, it's March. There's a gigantic bracket going up in downtown Indianapolis, and there's a lot of energy as we get ready to host our 9th men's Final Four for the NCAA here in Indianapolis during Easter weekend from April 3rd to the 6th. I'm bringing that up because I'm serving as co-chair for the Arts and Culture Committee in collaboration also with other organizations like the Art Council of Indianapolis, Gang 45%. We're doing a lot of activations, including sidewalk galleries. So we're turning empty businesses and storefronts with art from artists to decorate and vibrant our downtown Indianapolis. There's a lot of construction happening in downtown Indianapolis, but we're providing that opportunity while also elevating Central Indiana artists with their artwork. We're also collaborating and doing 5 live performances, like as I mentioned, with Gang and 45%, and we are doing 68 acts that it will include 170 artists throughout 5 different stages throughout that weekend, which is going to be an incredible feat to have that as well. And then have another special collaboration with Greg and students at the Basile Center. They got selected as the D1 representative at IUI Indianapolis. And we are commissioned 5 poster designs from students that are going to be given away as free takeaways for the event. So it's been great to collaborate with your students and getting that part of the effort and everything else. And it's been a great opportunity. I'm saying this, there's a lot of great opportunities. I'm saying this, Scott, as you all hosting your things right now, it's a great opportunity to go and learn how Indianapolis does their thing, how do they activate arts and culture through their process. Because this is something that I went last year to San Antonio and they just had theirs. And it's night and day difference of how other cities does it and why we keep coming back to Indianapolis. So I also want to say this is the first time that any city has hosted D1, D2, D3, and NIT championship in one weekend. Last time we hosted this, we hosted the entire tournament because it was the pandemic. So we hosted 71 games here in Indiana. So Indiana and the great partners at Indiana Sport Corps who do an amazing work, and we keep elevating and raising the bar for future generations to come. So I wanted to encourage you all to come over. There's a lot of family activity. I know it's Easter Sunday, but a lot of great things to do while down there. So I encourage you all to come.
Thanks, Andre. Yeah, a lot of great work. That's going to be a huge event. So I great to hear our part in that. Before we go to adjournment, I want to thank the IAC staff. We have, and many commissioners talked last night, just a conversation. We really do have the best staff. A lot of good leadership from Maya and a great and passionate team, all of it. So we appreciate all the extra hours, extra work that you end up doing on behalf of the ISC. It makes a difference. And last but not least, we want to thank Austin. Austin, in addition to running these meetings flawlessly, also has every detail from way before the meeting is envisioned until it's completed. And your attention to all of those things, many of which many of us don't know much about, is greatly appreciated. So why don't we just thank Austin? You can embarrass somebody.
Let me call my roll, Dave.
So, okay, at this point, we're ready for adjournment. We need a motion.
Jake moved, second.
It's a great, quick move there. Okay, roll call.
Don't need one. This is just an iron A.
Oh, no, we brought you to roll call.
Do you want me to? Who wants to stay longer? All right, we'll do the roll. Raina,
Aye.
Jeannie,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Daniel, Judith,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Azizi,
Aye.
Dawn,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and Kelsey.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so as
Thank
everybody leaves, restrooms are out the door and to your right, if you need them. If you want to pick up something to drive home, snack or something, if you walk out the front door of this building and walk right around to this side, there's a little bodega. And they have hot food, cold